I'm going to talk about infrastructure from code today, which is kind of a new species in the evolution of cloud. So I like to, ask you, how did you get started with clouds? Like almost 10 years ago, I started with just by clicking around, and I created my first EC2 instance by just like using ClickOps, and lots of automations just emerged, and like it became like easy to do some with tools, but at the end of the day, where we end up is this cloud native landscape, which becomes like lots of tools, lots of things to do, lots of things to learn. It became quite complex. So we are looking for, everyone is looking for ways of like making it any simpler. Infrastructure from code is actually targeting this. So before diving in, let me introduce myself. I'm Emrah Samdan from Ankara, Turkey. I'm a serverless hero since 2020, and I'm a product manager, which was I was previously a developer for more than 7 years, and then I transitioned to product management. And now I'm a fresh entrepreneur with AMT, our company, and I'm also a community organizer for AWS Community Day Turkey. I was going to say that you are invited, but I just learned that we sold out our tickets, so you are not. But like, Anton will be with us as a speaker, and like there will be also like great speakers like Jeff Barr, AJ Nair in Istanbul, and the recordings will be available. So let's talk about how we started building applications. So we started with the code, with whichever programming language, and its primitives like integers and strings and characters, whatever. And we were deploying this application to a system room, a server in a system room in the same building. And then cloud started. I'm just like skipping it really fast. And it started as an economical model instead of just like buying servers. You were renting stuff. So then like lift and shift was the thing for that. And you still need to manage the servers that you don't have access. And like there were different VMs for different needs. Now, like the last time I checked, there were more than 400 EC2 instance types on AWS, so that like you built this. And then like in the last decade, containers and Kubernetes and everything, this technology became important, and the microservices, the term microservices was entered our lives. And it was like we were able to build lightweight and developer-friendly, applications using that. But it also introduced lots of complexity of orchestration, service meshes, pods, and thousands of other tools. So, like when you say Kubernetes, this is actually what I understand in these days. So, and then there are serverless. So I'm a serverless hero. I love everything about AWS serverless, but like actually, I think like the definition is so damaged that like we need to make it even somehow new. Like the flexible scaling, it means like scale to 0 and to scale to infinity, high availability, pay-per-use, and event-driven. This should be the definition of serverless, but the marketers somehow killed the term serverless, and now we are calling services that starts with this amount of money to start a serverless. This is AWS OpenSearch, and this is Aurora, and like this amount of like the marketers. I mean, like the AWS marketers even just like make the serverless so-called of a marketing term now. It is, we don't know what is truly serverless or what's not now. But serverless adoption kind of failed. I'm saying this as a serverless hero because there was a steep learning curve and like not really cool developer experience. So it is not still very cool to start with serverless. So what's good developer experience in my opinion? So like you should give developers and development environments that are very close to production or identical to production. So it should be like people should be able to choose their tools to start to build. And like integration testing should be done, okay, should be done easier. So like the time spent on value should be bigger than time spent on setting up everything. So we are all drawn in YAMLs, in configuration files and everything, but this shouldn't be the case. So let's say that this easy API that gets requests from customer and just like talks with DynamoDB and use Lambda. I asked ChatGPT to provide an infrastructure as code in CDK for that. This is and also in AWS SAM. So this is just the code to define the infrastructure. But with infrastructure from code, this is it. So like you will just define your application with your business logic, and it is both your application and your infrastructure. The infrastructure from code vendors take it from this. So infrastructure from code is automatically infer the infrastructure requirements for the business logic and provision, manage, and like most importantly, kind of an underestimated thing is they optimize the resources. So you can increase, decrease the memory size for serverless function. You can even switch the containers or fail over to other regions when your region is under fire. So infrastructure from code regards the cloud as the new computer, and it needs an OS. It is infrastructure from code is actually the OS for the new computer, which is cloud. So what are these new primitives? These new primitives are APIs, tasks, events, databases, binary storage, and websockets. This is the kind of you should think like infrastructure from code tells that you need to think from this primitive's perspective rather than not API is a primitive for you now. A WebSocket is a primitive for you now. So this is how we are seeing the improvements in this area. So with this thing, we are actually close to the true promise of cloud. We will be writing only the application code without drowning into configuration files. Even now, like the term is really quite new, but like there are different approaches to infrastructure from code. There are SDK, like let me just talk about them. So this is SDK based, like you are using some SDK to define resources and it is done. There is also annotation based. This is from Model. This is like there are startups working on the annotation based Model, Clota, and Chaos. Like they are just like putting an annotation on top of the function so that it understands that this is a function to be deployed. And there are also hybrid approaches, like they are putting annotations. This is in Go by Anchor, but they are also providing some SDK like so that they can make a request like this. And there are also new programming languages for this purpose. This is from Winglang, and there is also Darklang. So they are just, instead of just using existing programming languages, they are inventing their new programming languages so that actually they can define cloud resources, how can I say, more freely compared with these new languages. So we are believing the infrastructure from code, people are believing in a feature where you don't need to run, do local emulation. So like you will be able to use your computer to interact with infrastructure in the cloud, and you will be building native cloud applications instead of cloud native applications. I mean, you will be using cloud resources to build applications rather than you will be building an application in your local and pushing it to cloud. And infrastructure will optimize itself. You will not need to guess like when to increase the memory of your Lambda function, let's say. And the integrations with third parties, with MongoDB, with PlanetScale, let's say, will be as easy as adding package. It's not about just like, hey, this is AWS, we need to just stick with it. So this is the question that we are searching for the answer. I just wanted to finish this with this. I don't know the answer, but like I want to ask to everyone here, like, will we be able to trust large language models to deploy an application so that like the IFC providers can take it and just run it with conversational programming? This is the kind of the feature that we may be going to. Thank you. It's the end of my presentation. You can always reach out to me by email and on Twitter. I'm using Twitter extensively, and you can also check our website from here. Thank you.
Thank you, Emrah.